Sam Sefer in Parshas Ve'era, and the pasuk V'hitzesi eschem mitachas sivleis Mitzrayim, V'hitzalti eschem me'aveidasam, V'lokachti eschem li la'am. The Chassam Sofer brings the question that so many ask. If the Avram Avinu was told by the Rabbi Shalom that Klal Yisrael will be in Galus for 400 years, how did it come to be that they were taken out early? After 210 years they were redeemed? Zakt the Chassam Sofer, I want to say a new pshat. The halacha is hektish mafkia midei shibud. That means to say that if one has a field, a property, that's meshubid, that there's a lien on it from another person, and he has to give that to pay up a debt, a chayv, to the other person, if the owner of the field, of the property, is makdish it, he makes it hektish, the hektish takes off the lien, and now the field is totally by hektish, and the other person doesn't have a lien on the field anymore. Hektish mafkia midei shibud. Zakt the Chassam Sofer, Klal Yisrael had a shibud for 400 years. But hektish mafkia midei shibud. The Rabbi Shalom was mekadesh Klal Yisrael. As the pasuk, the Navi tells us, that Klal Yisrael is kodesh la'Hashem reishis tfuasai. Klal Yisrael became kodesh la'Hashem, and that kedusha was mafkia midei shibud, took us out of the shibud that we had to be in Galus. Zot Chassam Sofer, that's the pshat in the pasuk. But how did that come to be? It's early. V'lokachti eschem li la'am. I made you holy. I made you mine, Zok the Rabbeinu Shalom. You have the kedusha of the Rabbeinu Shalom, and that's mafkia midei shibud. Zok the Chassam Sofer. But that's only as long as we keep that kedusha. And he specifies that we keep that kedusha b'negeya arayis, kedushas Yisrael, and b'negeya macholes asures, being careful in what we eat, the kashrus of what we eat. Zot the Chassam Sofer, as long as we keep that, we remain kadosh to the Rabbeinu Shalom, we're mafkia midei shibud. But if Rachmana litzlan, we begin to falter in kedushas Yisrael, then we have to go back to that shibud that we have to be in Galus. And I saw in the Sefer Shiras Nasan, from Again Rabbi David May, soll sein gesund und stark. He says this may be another reason about the Avodah of Yemei HaShovavim, that the Kadmainim tell us is an Avodah that's miyuchet to Kedushas Yisrael, the inyanim of Kedusha. Because since what afforded us the opportunity to go out of Mitzrayim was that Kedusha, to remain out of Mitzrayim, we have to work and be mechazik ourselves in this Kedusha of Kedushas Yisrael, to be zeicha, to be v'lakachti eschem li la'am, that we shouldn't be tachas sivleis Mitzrayim. But in this pasuk, v'lakachti eschem li la'am, Chazal tell us that also means matan Torah. And I saw in the Sefer from the Tosher Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik v'Kodesh Livracha, in a shmuz that he said on Parshas Ve'era, and he discusses this inyan of Talmud Torah and Kabbalah Torah in regards to the Yemei HaShovavim and to Yetzias Mitzrayim. And he tells us that we know from Svarim that one of the Iker Avodas of the days of Shovavim is the Avodah of being Miyageya in Torah, Amal HaTorah. And the makar of this really is in the Sefer Oyev Yisrael from the Heilige Abter Rav in Parshas Vayechi. The Oyev Yisrael writes that whereas in previous generations, during the days of Shovavim, they were busy fasting with Sigufim, today's generation, we're Shvach Ederis, we don't fast. But we have to make sure to be Omel B'Torah, Torah Shebal Peh, to learn more, to be more involved in our learning, and through that, we have the tikkun that's necessary. And the Tosher Rebbe there tells us in the Sefer, he says that this Avodah of Amal HaTorah means that the Torah is not only something that we do, we spend our time, whatever time that we have enabled in order to learn, but we learn with our mind. We let the Torah penetrate. We think about what we're learning. We're involved in our learning while we're learning. We're not just doing it. We're learning it. And that purifies the moyach of a yid. That purifies the machshava of a yid. And when the person's machshava becomes purified, becomes heilig, that spreads kedusha into the whole guf of the yid. I saw from the Mashkiach Rabbi Yerucham, when he discusses the day of Shovavim, he calls them the days of Tikkun HaMachshava. And he writes there in the Shmuz Rabbi Yerucham also about the godless of learning Torah and the importance of learning Torah in these days, and Amal HaTorah. And he brings the famous Rambam, where the Rambam says that all machshavas, arayis, and taivas can only penetrate a mind that doesn't have Torah to it. But a mind that's niskadesh with Torah, a mind that's thinking and learning, that his mind is being used to think, whether it's a shvera sugya, whether it's a halacha, whether it's his daily daf yomi, his amid yomi, his halacha yomis, whether it's a pasuk chumash and Rashi, not just reading it, but thinking about it, that mind is now purified, and this is the tikkun machshava of Yemei HaShovavim. And that can go together with what the Chassam Sofer tells us. Yes, v'lokachti eschem li la'am, the Kedushas Yisrael is what allowed us to get out of Mitzrayim early. But how can we attain that Kedusha in Tavshin Pei? How can we retain that Kedusha in a world that's so morally corrupt, in a world where right and wrong don't exist anymore? The only thing that we have is Ein Lanu Shir Rak HaTorah Hazais. The time that we do have to learn, we utilize it properly. We think about what we learned. As we're closing the Gemara, we can make a quick synopsis of what we learned. And yes, as we look at the Pasuk Chumash Rashi, as we look at a Sefer, it's not just to say something over. We let it penetrate our mind. We use our minds for Torah. Last week we discussed Yiras Shamayim. But after Yiras Shamayim, one has to start with the Avodah of Kedushas HaTorah, of being Miyageya in Torah, Amal HaTorah. And when one does that, it's not only the Sur Meirah that the Yiras Shamayim brings, but he's starting on the process of Asay Toiv, of the Kedushas HaTorah, which is elevating him, which is being Mafkia him midei Shibud. And if one may add to the Chassam Sofer, it's not only Mafkia from the day Shibud of Golus, but it's Mafkia us from the Shibud of the Yetzer Hara. Meirai v'Rabbi say, let us use the second week of Shovavim to make some type of Kabbalah and Chizuk in Limud HaTorah, in Amal HaTorah, in being involved in the learning that we are able to do, and even try to learn a little bit more. And with that schus, we will be zeicha to become greater people, more kadosh. And with that, kedusha will be zeicha mafkia midei shibud.